Hello, YouTube. I finished a book. If you watched my last video, you'll recall that I said I was already into a book. This is a pretty fucking short book. It was only 252 pages. Even the pages had, kind of very large type, big spaces between the sentences, so it was really quick. I have 7 more of these. This is called The Narrative of a Blockade Runner. The guy's name is John Wilkinson. He was an officer in the Confederate Navy. And so, what he did was he tried to go somewhere to trade cotton for war goods and then bring it back into one of the ports. And so, throughout the war, the Confederates slowly lost all their ports. And at the end, he ended up sailing back to England and trying to get some money just for the ship. But by then it was all over for the Confederate States. He also spent some time on a boat, the Chickamauga, something like that, as a raider. And he went north with that boat. And, things were so bad for the Confederates that even if he captured what they called a prize, he really had nowhere to send it back. So they would take some coal off it and they would just light the boat on fire. And they ended up with one of their prize boats sending back all the prisoners they had, because that's what happens with raiders. The Germans did it during the First World War and the Second World War. Some of the German boats were very successful. I got 7 more of these. These are really nice. They're fucking bound in leather. It's even got like a little thing here where you can mark your page. I didn't use it. I'm so used to using a bookmark. The edge of the thing is all gilded and it's nice thick paper. It's even got this pattern on the edge, on the front pieces, both sides. I have a couple of other books. This was written in 1877, but this book is not from 1877. It's from like 1981. I've only got a couple of notes in here. Wilkinson is at first assigned to artillery. Yeah, he was along the Potomac, assigned to some artillery emplacements. They weren't even really artillery. These were guns that they had removed from boats. This happens in wartime. If you can't make efficient use of your ships, you take the guns off them and use them somewhere else. When the Confederates pull back from their lines, I have that in parentheses, he is placed aboard the Louisiana and involved in the defense of New Orleans. There he's taken prisoner, but later on he's involved in a prisoner exchange, and then he goes for blockade running. Obviously this guy is a Confederate. He takes a lot of time to bitch about the conditions in northern prisons, and about how wretchedly the Confederate prisoners were treated, and how many of them died, and a lot of the book is like that. He's defending the South. He defends racism. He defends slavery. According to this guy, the slaves were very happy, and he even takes a couple of pages to talk about some of the Chinese people that were working on various projects in the United States. The Chinese were also working in the Bahamas and in Cuba, and he contrasts their treatment with the treatment of slaves, of black slaves in the South. These are all my dad's books. All my Civil War stuff. It's all my dad's stuff, and I have a feeling that my dad was probably a Southern sympathizer. He's on a steamer bound from Cuba to England. This is where he first goes to England to pick up. The English were actually kind of I don't really understand why, but they were sympathetic to the Southern cause. And so he goes there and he's got money from the Confederates, and he's going to buy the ship that they turn into this blockade runner. So he's on a steamer bound from Cuba to England. The mission is to purchase a fast ship laden with arms and munitions for the Southern war effort. And there's also passengers on this ship. And I've got written here the second paragraph. He's just talking about them eating on board the ship. We were half poisoned and wholly saturated with garlic while on board the little steamer. The men, women, and children smoked incessantly. Our clever artist, Johnny T., drew a capital sketch of a portly old lady whose habit it was, after every meal, to take from her side pocket an oilskin bundle of huge cigars, evidently plantations and made to order. Selecting one, she would strike a light with her machero and begin to puff away like a furnace. When fairly alight, she would dispose of the smoke in some mysterious inner receptacle, whence it would issue in a minute or more from nose, eyes, ears, and even through the pores of her mahogany-colored skin, as it appeared to us. I just thought it was kind of a funny little paragraph. And really, I've got one more note. And I've already talked about this, but several places in this book the author extols the virtues of slavery, even comparing the life of a black to that of a Chinese coolie. Also blaming the North for the prisoner's death toll. And he goes on and on, several pages about the North and about how Grant refused to do big exchanges, and there's reasons behind this refusal to do exchanges, because the South would not recognize any black soldiers as being eligible for the exchange. To the South, the black soldiers that they had taken prisoner were merely contraband to be returned to their owners. And that was kind of a sticking point, and so that kind of screwed up some of the prisoner exchanges. Not that they didn't do any prisoner exchanges, because they did. And they tended, especially Grant, tended to parole when they took large amounts of prisoners. They would parole them, meaning you would sign a piece of paper saying that you wouldn't fight against the North again for the duration of the war. And they did that because they wanted to, they wanted to pacify the hearts and minds of the Southerners. They wanted the war to end. That's it. I'm not reading anything right now. I can't find a fucking book.